Marcus Freeman carries himself with the quiet confidence of a man who has survived every version of pressure football can offer and still finds joy in the simple things: the thump of pads at practice, the echo of laughter from his children, the warmth of a home that never stops moving. At Notre Dame, he has already etched himself into program history, steering the Fighting Irish to the most wins they had ever produced in a single season. But when you watch him long enough, when you see how he interacts with the people who orbit closest to him, you start to understand something fundamental about who he is. Coaching is his profession. Fatherhood is his pulse. And the line between the two, in Marcus Freeman's life, barely exists at all. Long before he became the face of one of America's most storied football programs, Marcus was just another kid chasing a dream at Ohio State. That's where he met Joanna, the woman who would ultimately become the foundation of everything he built. Their relationship wasn't a storybook spark or some picture-perfect sweep of instant destiny. It was messy, real, full of youthful intensity and the kinds of breakups and reconciliations that feel like whirlwinds when you're young and trying to figure out who you are. Joanna once joked that there was nothing especially cinematic about their love story, no dramatic build-up, no romantic orchestration, just two young people falling fast, stumbling often, and learning how to grow into adulthood side by side. But Marcus knew what he had found. As he once said with absolute certainty, there is simply no one else he would ever rather do life with than her. By the time they married in 2010, life was already moving quickly. Marcus had a daughter, Bria, from a previous relationship. She entered his world at a moment when most college players are still trying to figure out their majors, not their parenting style. But Marcus embraced fatherhood with the same intensity he brought to the field. There's an old photograph, taken during Ohio State's Media Day in 2007, showing Marcus holding 8-month-old Bria in his arms. The equipment, the noise, the spectacle of Buckeye football surrounded them, yet Bria is the center of the frame, and Marcus looks at her like she is the one grounding force in a world constantly spinning. Bria would eventually become the eldest of 7 siblings, each added to the Freeman family with the same sense of barely controlled chaos that defines all large families. After Bria came Vinny, a powerhouse of an athlete in his own right. Then Sienna, the bundle of sunshine everyone calls Cece. Gino, who inherited the family's sports genes with a grin that always seemed to announce trouble. Nico, born with a sense of mischief that could fill a room. Capri, spirited and bold, who arrived during Marcus's time at Cincinnati and wasted no time carving out her own personality. And finally, Rocco, the youngest, the one who tied the family story together like the final chapter of a long, warm novel. Where some coaches compartmentalize their personal lives to survive the grind of the profession, Marcus did the opposite. He let his family bleed directly into his identity as a leader. When he took the job at Notre Dame, he confronted a decision that was deeply personal: whether to join his wife and children in their Catholic faith. Marcus had not grown up practicing Catholicism, but the rhythms of the tradition lived inside his home. Joanna and the kids prayed, worshipped, celebrated, and carried themselves in a way that reflected the values of their community. When Marcus arrived at Notre Dame, a program steeped in Catholic identity, something in the environment, something in the mission, and something in the heartbeat of the campus resonated with him. So he converted, not as a gesture, not as a checkbox, but as a personal evolution, a shift towards something that already existed in the people he loved most. Family became an extension of his coaching philosophy, not a distraction from it. Practices at Notre Dame often include unexpected guests, small shadows darting behind tackling dummies, little faces peeking through the fence, the echo of children yelling "Dad" across the field. His players see it all: the way Marcus bends down to tie a shoe between drills, the way a toddler runs into his arms after practice as if no one else on the field exists. And that is deliberate. Marcus believes deeply that his role as a father is inseparable from his role as a coach. He once said he wants his players to see what fatherhood looks like, what marriage looks like, what it means to balance ambition with love, leadership with humility. Because for him, those lessons stick longer than any game plan. He coaches with a father's mindset. He raises with a coach's instincts. The overlap is constant. He sees potential in every young man who walks through the football facility, just as he sees untapped greatness in each of his children. His mission, whether he's diagramming a blitz package or tucking a kid to bed, is exactly the same. Help people discover goals they didn't even know they were allowed to dream. And so the saga of the Freeman family unfolds both loudly and quietly across the seasons. Bria, now 18, carries the distinction of being the one who made Marcus a father before he ever earned a paycheck in football. She grew up in locker rooms, on practice fields, in stadium hallways, learning that college football isn't just a sport, but a way of life, unpredictable, demanding, relentless. She witnessed every transition, the moves, the promotions, the disappointments that coaches try to hide but children absorb anyway. Through it all, she became someone who understands her father not as a public figure, but as the man who once tucked her under his arm during media day and whispered reassurances only she could hear. Vinny, 17, is the family's resident wrecking ball, built for competition, wired for adrenaline. He plays the kind of high school football that makes scouts stop mid-conversation, the kind of wrestling that leaves opponents staring up at gym ceilings, wondering what just happened. When Marcus shared publicly that Vinny had committed to wrestle for Cornell, it wasn't just a proud dad moment. It was a glimpse into the way athletics threads itself through the Freeman DNA. Marcus beams when he talks about Vinny, but he never takes credit for his son's intensity. He knows the fire belongs to the kid, not the coach. Then there's Sienna, Cece, 12 years old and already commanding her own spotlight. She has a softness about her, the kind that makes people smile without knowing why. She is the steady calm inside the storm of her siblings, the one who often seems to patch up the chaos with her presence alone. Gino, 11, is the spark plug. There's an old photo of him and Vinny flanking Marcus before practice one afternoon, the boys glowing with pride in their athletic gear, their father caught somewhere between coach mode and dad mode. That image almost perfectly captures what life in the Freeman family feels like, competitive energy swirling around a man who never stops moving between roles. Nico, now 9, once had a 4th birthday celebration that Marcus shared online. Small, simple, joyful. A moment frozen in time before the whirlwind of growing up took over. And Capri, the 7-year-old firecracker, once charmed the nation with an appearance on ESPN's College Game Day, her personality bursting across the screen as if the broadcast was built just to host her. Little Rocco, now 6, completed the picture. Marcus once posted a holiday photo of all 7 kids perched around him, a visual representation of what he calls his home team. It's a phrase he uses with pride, because family for him isn't something to juggle, it's something to anchor him. Through the many seasons of fatherhood, Marcus has evolved into a man who balances a national spotlight with nightly bedtime routines. He walks onto the field with the weight of a program on his shoulders and walks into his living room with a child tugging at his sleeve. Saturday nights might end in stadium roars, but Sunday mornings begin with cereal bowls and cartoons. And through it all, through the demands and expectations and high-profile visibility, Marcus treats his family like a sacred constant. What makes Marcus Freeman compelling isn't just his success, his drive, or his strategic mind. It's the way he threads love through everything he does. He speaks about his players not as assets or statistics, but as sons temporarily entrusted to him. He runs his program with the same values he nurtures inside his home: accountability, discipline, compassion, and an almost stubborn dedication to becoming better every single day. The world sees the coach who breaks program records. The record books remember the man who led Notre Dame to unprecedented heights.
But his family sees the man who still kneels to tie shoes, who still reads bedtime stories, who still laughs when Capri tells a joke or when Nico builds something crooked but insists it's perfect. He sees the man who never forgot where he came from, the man who grew up learning resilience the hard way, the man who chose to be present in a profession designed to pull fathers away from home. Marcus Freeman may lead teams under stadium lights, but the story of his life unfolds in quieter moments. A child's hand in his, the sound of Joanna's voice after a long day, and the slam of football cleats mixed with the soft patter of little footsteps across the practice field. He lives a life measured not only by wins and losses, but by family dinners squeezed into impossible schedules, and the satisfaction of knowing that every success he earns is shared with the people waiting